Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our continuing coverage of Spartan Ops Season 1. We are back from our short hiatus, similar to how Spartan Ops had a hiatus between the first and second halves of the season, and we are bringing to you Episode 6, Scattered. And as always, I have HaloFanForLife riding the shotgun with me.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Glad to be back.
Yeah? How'd you enjoy the break?
I did very much, but always excited to get back to Spartan Ops.
Yeah, and we have some very, very good developments in this second half of Spartan Ops. As you guys probably already know, we're recording this after the entire season is already over. But from what we've seen and what we're going to reveal in these next 5 episodes is going to blow your minds if you haven't played through it already.
Concur. I definitely concur. The second half, I love the first half, but the second half, wow, it just got so much better.
Yeah, they took the feedback that the community had about the first half of Spartan Ops, and they just completely did a 180 and made it that much better. I have to give props to 343 on this one for really turning Spartan Ops around to be a more enjoyable, more engaging experience.
And vehicles.
And vehicles and
enemies and locations. And
play spaces. Oh my goodness. They knocked this one out of the park.
Oh, absolutely.
I hope this is a good sign to come for things that they're going to improve in Halo 5.
I would think so.
And possibly a second season of Spartan Ops? Maybe?
Maybe.
One could always hope. One could always hope. Let's go ahead and recap what happened in the first 5 episodes. So we were introduced to Spartan Team Majestic as they were flying towards infinity, being ready to disembark on a journey to Requiem from Earth. And we're introduced to the Majestic team, which is Paul DeMarco, Madsen, Hoya, Tedra Grant, and Gabriel Thorne.
Ah, by the way, I found out Hoya's first name.
Did you now?
Isaac.
Very nice. I can update my guide with that. Thank you.
Sure.
We're still missing Madsen, though. Yeah,
maybe we have to come up with a name for him. I'm thinking like Patrick or Peter or something like that. I don't know.
He does seem to be like a Patrick.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll show you actually. There's a motion capture with the guy who played Hoya, and it had Isaac right next to Hoya, and it's not his first name. That was the name of Hoya. That's not the first name of the actor.
Right.
So now we've got that one down.
Very nice. We're just missing one.
Yes.
The ever-elusive Madsen. Oh, boy. So we have them come aboard the Infinity for the first time. They're in awe of what's before them, and they get introduced to Commander Palmer, who's going to be leading the Spartan teams through their missions on Requiem. And as we get there, the Covenant have kind of regained control over Requiem since the campaign, and there's the first set of missions that you have in Episode 1 is kind of taking back little control points around Requiem and establishing bases for scientists to do some of their research on the planet. And then we start this kind of back and forth motion where the Covenant's coming in and taking over some of the stuff that we captured. We're pushing into enemy territory. We're trying to find some archaeological digs that the Covenant have gone through. We're trying to figure out where some Forerunner relics are, and a whole bunch of this back and forth stuff that's been going on. And meanwhile, we have our own little side story that's happening on Infinity with the artifact that Fireteam Crimson, which you are a part of, brought back, and that's when everything really starts to hit the fan. Is when Crimson brings that artifact back on board, and that's when all the strange stuff happens. So,
and that ends up playing a very important part in the second half of the season later.
Yeah, more so than you would think. At first I thought it was just more kind of a staging piece to the story, not something that was going to be an integral part into the story of the second half. But as we go through these next 5 episodes, we're really going to start seeing how important that one piece of Forerunner technology is to this story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to get crazy. So episode 2 is where we see some of this back and forth stuff start to take place. We have science teams that have been deployed and they're getting attacked. We have a few instances where we're going and hitting some Covenant bases pretty hard. But most of the time you're on defense for the second episode. And then the third episode introduces Dr. Catherine Halsey.
Oh, dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. The infamous founder of the Spartan program. So for those of you that have read your books, you will know who she is. For those of you that have not, I'll give you a little background story. So she was the scientist assigned by Oni. Now this is kind of important for later, but she was assigned by Oni to invest in this Spartan program, and she went around kidnapping kids with a certain biological footprint, certain gene characteristics that she found fitting for this program of hers. Kidnapped them, replaced them with flash clones that ended up dying not too much longer, and she trained these 6-year-old kids to be super soldiers, and going through gene therapy and bodily augmentation, they turned into the Spartan 2s that we have today. And as far as the games are concerned, Master Chief is the last one, but if you've read the books, you know that's not necessarily the case.
That's right.
So hopefully we're not dumping too much knowledge on you there. But that gives a basic rundown of who Catherine Halsey was, and now she's being kind of portrayed as this traitor, breaker of many, many laws, and it's all being framed by Oni, of course.
Yeah, they threw her under the bus.
Yeah.
Or the Pelican.
Actually, what would be the bus in Halo? I would. Do they have buses?
Troop Warthog, I guess.
I guess that'd be the closest thing I could think to a bus.
I mean, there are civilian buses, but it's really kind of we don't really pay attention or see much of that. You'd see more of that in ODST.
She got thrown under the forklift.
Ah, there you go.
How about that?
Catherine Halsey.
Yep. So when Catherine Halsey enters the whole realm of the Spartan Ops experience, we see things start to develop in terms of Forerunner tech that's there, and we're not quite taking an offensive against the Covenant, but we're exploring what's there on Requiem that we didn't know before. So there's certain things that are happening that the Covenant have already gone and dug up and are searching through. And some of those things are little artifacts. Some are slip-space portals that we'll eventually figure out how to use in episode 5. So we're going around to each one of these different sites and kind of messing around with things and seeing what we can find. In the meantime, there's another little side plot going on around Pargval. He's one of the Covenant terrorists that's been accompanying Julam Dama, who's the main protagonist here.
Yeah, he's the factional leader.
Yeah, he's the religious nut of the Covenant that are there on Requiem, and he's going around kind of gathering troops up, and meanwhile Pargval is wreaking havoc on a lot of the UNSC forces that have been deployed. And at the very end of Chapter 5 and Episode 3, you corner him, you take him out, and of course the Covenant's not too happy. They come and attack, but you've finally kind of staked your claim at Requiem, and you're really starting to push back against the Covenant. It's taken a little bit to establish a strong point in Requiem, and you've finally have done that with the extermination or the elimination of Pargval in Episode 3, and then coming Episode 4, you're chasing Julam Dama down with this artifact that he somehow has. So you're trying to chase him down, get him to stop what he's doing, And of course, all the way through episode 5, he just manages to escape over and over and over again. Like he does, like the slippery, sneaky bastard that he is.
Yes.
So, you eventually figure out, well, you don't eventually figure out, but the scientists that you're helping through episodes 4 and 5 eventually figure out how to use the slip space network, and through some of the other science teams that are there, you finally get to where you can use it, and you actually chase Jewel as he's traveling through this slip space portal system that's on Requiem. On your way through, you're trying to rescue teams that have been captured, that have been cornered. You get to have another Spartan team blow up a Covenant cruiser as you're rescuing some Marines. So that's a lot of
fun.
It slowly gets to the point where there's a lot more explosions in Spartan Ops, and in the second half, there's definitely a lot more explosions. So by episode 5, you have kind of found out why the Covenant are here, what they're doing, and they're trying to access the Librarian. While you've been hunting down Covenant and trying to track down Jewel, Dr. Glassman, who was teleported from this artifact upon Requiem, helps out the Covenant just to kind of save his own skin so they don't kill him there. Manages to activate the Librarian terminal, although it's still we're not sure what exactly happened to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of the end, is where we have Dr. Halsey on the ship mistakenly talking with Joel. Now, she doesn't quite know who she's talking with yet, but with her kind of meddling around and Palmer's and Lasky's mistrust, they kind of take her back into custody, stop all of her research, what she's doing, and in the meantime, Glassman manages to activate the Librarian. It leads us to where we are right now, which is episode 6. So, did I miss any big points? I think I covered most of them.
Yeah, no, you did a pretty good job there, actually.
I will say I think our most favorite part from the first half was the big Mantis battle in Valhalla.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was episode 3, chapter 4?
That's right, 3-4.
Yep. So I think that was our most favorite by far.
Yeah, I mean, being able to play on one of the classic maps against the Covenant instead of Spartans like we normally did, and then getting to use the Mantises against them like we did, and the wave after wave of enemies, the wave after wave of Banshees. I mean, you just couldn't have... I mean, that was hyper firefight, like there was nothing like that in Reach. I mean, this was a firefight that just kept going on and was just so much fun. And
the intensity built as you went along, and it was just a very good, clean shoot 'em up experience.
Absolutely.
The nice thing about that, though, is that kind of prefaces the kind of action that we're going to see in the second half of Spartan Ops, which is very, very exciting.
It is.
It is. So let's start off with episode 6, which is Scattered. So here the subtitle is Spartan Thorne is hunted by a deadly elite assassin, which is kind of contradictory to actually what happened during the cinematic piece. But
yeah.
Well, I guess if you're talking about afterwards, but we'll get to that after we talk about the cinematic. The first scene that... So if you're watching the
cinematic?
Yes, if you watch the cinematic piece, you actually get this kind of sum up of the first half of Spartan Ops, and you'll enter into what the 6th episode cinematic actually is. So when you get to the first scene with Dr. Halsey being interrogated, that's when episode 6 of the CGI, the CGI cinematic actually starts. So Dr. Halsey is being interrogated by Captain Lasky, with Commander Palmer just kind of strutting around, since her and Lasky are kind of buddy-buddy. Hey, we haven't seen anything yet, so I'm not going to jump to conclusions.
Did I say anything?
No, but you gestured, as you have on past shows, about a certain relationship between the two.
Well, it's not hard to figure out, but
There's I don't know. There's some other things that I've actually thought of that doesn't quite make sense on how deep the relationship would actually be able to go. But I'll talk with that about I'll talk about that with you a little bit afterwards.
All right.
But anyways, back to Halsey. She's going on this rant about she's not going to be able to know everything within the universe or the galaxy. Just there's not enough time in her lifespan to do it. But she kind of flips that on its side and it's like, compared to her quest for knowledge, the UNSC is only interested in their small corner of the galaxy that they occupy and just what's in front of their face. And she uses the term sandbox.
Mm-hmm. They act like children at play in a sandbox.
Yeah. Not realizing the bigger picture and just what's in front of them. Palmer kind of responds and is like, I bet they'll keep you in something a lot smaller than the sandbox from now on when they put you away. And she is defending herself, and she says she did nothing wrong, and the person or entity that she was talking with on her datapad, which is the reason why they confined her again, they already knew who she was, why she was there, who the UNSC was, and everything. She didn't reveal any information, but the intelligence on the other side, or whoever was talking to her, was willing to offer information to help advance UNSC and human research by years from what they were currently capable of doing. So there's a bunch of she's trying to play the innocent card, and we're not exactly sure whether or not she is innocent at this point. I think knowing her history, she's really cautious about divulging certain pieces of information, and I think at this point it's really safe. It's safe to believe that she's telling the truth because she doesn't really have anything to lose at this point.
Although you can see where Lasky and Palmer and anybody else would still be suspect of her given her past.
Well, so it's a matter of what her past actually is versus what her past is portrayed to be, and we know that Palmer is pretty much closely related to Oni, and Oni is the one that's spinning this whole story of Halsey's the baddest person alive and has committed the most heinous crimes by kidnapping children and training them to be super soldiers, which, let's see, aren't they the ones that kind of saved humanity from a Covenant onslaught to begin with?
Yeah, right. Even though they weren't designed for that at the beginning, still that's what they ended up doing.
Yeah, and on top of that, Oni were the people that told Halsey to go make the Spartan program.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, of course, being the sly sons of a they are, turned their back on her and is making her the scapegoat.
See, and this is what I like in the Halo universe. It's actually a very complex story then when you think about it,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you read the books, she's very caring for the children, and as they grow up, she certainly cares about Master Chief and refers to him as John, where she didn't really refer to the other Spartans by their first name.
No, no, it was every Spartan that was under her. She referred to them by the first name.
Well, yeah,
but she cared more about John. Yes.
Yeah, and so the way that Oni portrays her versus who she really is and how she really felt about the Spartans is quite different. Is she a monster for what she did? Some might say yes, but then some would argue that, well, in the vast scheme of things and considering the population of humanity in its entirety over the galaxy, 75 children wasn't that much of an atrocity, especially considering what they accomplished. Now, that's where the complexity comes in, though. If you look at, the world today, absolutely people would be against it. But then if those same children turned the world on its heels and made it become a better place, do you see how complex that becomes, So really, you can pick and choose how you decide to look at Halsey. personally, I consider her a hero for what she did. She's very smart, intelligent, brought all this to bear, and it ended up saving humanity. But this is a fictitious world, so we're allowed to take those liberties.
Right. And I will say, come episode 8, we get a brief introduction to a certain character that has a deep history with Halsey. And we'll address it when we get there. But it's a very minor thing in terms of Spartan Ops, but it's a huge thing in the realm of the greater story in the Halo universe.
Right.
So we'll get to that when we hit episode 8. But moving on with the cutscene, Halsey brings up the fact that the mission that Infinity is on is slated as a research mission, not as a run and gun
live fire
war game, as she puts it. And of course, she leans in and looks in the direction of Palmer because she's the one that's leading all the Spartan teams to go kill everything. Before she gets a chance to rebuttal, though, Roland spurts in and comes with I'm not sure why this is exactly an urgent message from him, but I guess in his mind it was important enough to interrupt their private conversation and tell Palmer that Spartan Thorne has been detected and is alive on Requiem.
Well, it is important enough. I mean, there's not that many Spartans, and
it's important, but I mean,
yeah.
Would you interrupt an interrogation like that for, especially as someone as quote unquote high profile as Dr. Halsey, just to say that, oh, we found one of our missing Spartans?
Well, I guess it depends. Is he the only missing Spartan? They certainly knew the actions and what happened. From Thorne being missing, and I'm sure he'd want to let Commander Palmer know, and that's all he was really trying to do. He got in there quickly, let her know that, hey, he's alive on Requiem, and then that's all we see of that. And I think probably to some extent, knowing Halsey's affiliation with Spartans as well, he probably considered it, worth checking in and letting them know what's going on.
Fair enough. I just found it a little odd that was considered urgent. I mean, I'm not against it in terms of the storyline. It's just I wouldn't imagine something using the word urgent.
Yeah.
I would say maybe important.
Yeah.
But urgent, I would say that's probably not something as urgent.
Now I'm thinking of that
personally
song. Urgent. Never mind.
I'm not sure what you're going with that. Sorry.
That's okay. I won't sing it.
All right. Fair
for the
enough.
benefit of everybody listening.
All right. So back on Requiem, we see Spartan Thorne being drugged by something. We don't quite see who it is yet, but he's in a daze. It's like he's waking up from being knocked out or from falling asleep or something. And as he's being drugged along, we actually get flashbacks to the battle that he had. When he came out of the artifact teleport system, of course he got dropped off at where the artifact was originally found. We see that from the last episode cutscene for episode 5. And there's a battle that goes on between him and 3 other elites that are there. So the first elite that's there charges him. He counters and takes the elite's sword and jams it through his chest. So he manages to kill one, uses that sword to fight off an attack from one of the other elites, but the other elites manages to knock him off and slices a pretty deep cut through his armor.
Yeah.
And at this point, you really see that Thorne is kind of struggling, but he is still putting up a good fight. The second elite that came at him with the sword rushes him again. Thorne trips him, tries to stand back up, and then this third elite just whacks him in the face and knocks him out cold.
Really surprised they didn't kill him, but of course that's revealed in a little bit here.
Right. He's being drugged through Sniper Alley to where the Librarian AI is. The Librarian AI, if you guys haven't figured out by this point, is pretty much their central hub of operations, since it's the reason why Jewel is there trying to get access to the Librarian and gain the knowledge that the Forerunners have for them at the site. So he's being drugged back there. After the flashbacks, he finally comes to, realizes where he is, and probably gets an idea of where he's being taken. He looks up sees two elites dragging him, and you actually see one of the elites kind of get a hint that something's moving, so he turns around, but by the time the elite turns around, Spartan Thorne is already kind of back, pretending that he's knocked out. Lets the elites drag him on to the door, and leading up to where the Librarian, the tunnel system of where the Librarian AI is. Before he gets there, we see another flash to the Librarian. We have all the elites that are currently in the chamber bowing down in awe of this thing being activated. Jules off to the side. Dr. Glassman standing in front of it, just kind of like, okay, I did something. Hopefully I didn't do anything too bad. Jewel comes in from the side and he's like, you've woken the Librarian. Glassman responds, of course, I'm not exactly sure what I've done. And he starts to step back, giving Jewel his room, looks to both sides where the elites are bowing, and he picks up the leash that he has and has this moment where he realizes, oh crap, I'm free. I can escape.
I can make a break for it.
Everyone's distracted by this beautiful thing up there. So he starts to run off. No one pays attention to him, even though the leash is dragging on the floor, and you can hear the clinking behind him.
Mm. You know, I thought it was really interesting, too, that he did that, because he's, up to this point, been portrayed as kind of wimpy, you know? And I think that was part an act of bravery as well as an act of desperation. And I was glad to actually see him take a risk like that.
Right.
You know, that shows a little bit more about his character than what he's been portrayed to up till this point. So it was nice to see him take that leap of faith and you know, haul ass.
Yeah, he's a little more the kind of Halsey level scientist than he was originally made out to be. Once Glassman starts to run out of the room, we see Jewel start to approach, puts his hand out, and it's like, I can finally...
Yeah, now I will learn.
Yeah, now we'll learn all the Librarian has to offer. And when he touches the protective barrier, he gets flung backwards, lets out this massive roar, and we see Glassman just kind of standing around. It's like, okay, definitely they're pissed off about something. Yanks off his collar, starts to run out of the facility. Jewel turns around and is like, what's the meaning of this, Glassman? Realizes he's gone and just rages, has all of his brethren that are there go chase after him. Turns to Gek and is like, this is unacceptable. And Gek, doing the noble, honorable thing, says, I will personally take care of this. And Jewel's like, make sure you do. Or else you're not going to be very happy with what I have planned for you afterwards, kind of thing. So Gek's plan is to go chase after him, see if he can find him. Meanwhile, as Thorne is being dragged up to the door to the tunnels in the facility, we have the two elites squabbling back and forth and trying to figure out what to do with the Spartan. One of them is like, shouldn't we just take care of him now while he's here? Have him pay for the dishonor that he's caused us by killing one of our brethren? And the other one's like, no, the Didact's hand wants anything that comes through the artifact be brought to him alive. At that point, the door opens, Dr. Glassman runs out, and one of the elite that's closest that actually opens the door grabs him before Glassman can escape. Both of the elites are completely oblivious now to what Spartan Thorne's doing, and of course he's awake and about ready to take action. He grabs the Covenant carbine from the nearest elite, whacks him in the head, shoots the elite that's holding Glassman up by his neck, turns around and shoots the other elite he grabs the carbine from, and gives the nice little gesture to Dr. Glassman. Is like, thanks for the rescue. In typical Thorne fashion. Glassman standing there is like, no, that's not the real threats. The real threat's the guys that are chasing me behind me. So, of course, we have this just army of elites charging them. Meanwhile, Gek is back. He finds where Glassman yanked off his collar and is to the final resort, pulls out a detonator, opens the lid, which of course activates the vest, which starts blinking, making noise. Thorne, this is the vest that has been put on Dr. Glassman, just to clarify.
Right.
Thorne realizes what's going on, rips off the vest, throws it into the middle of the oncoming elites, and it just so happens that when Gek decides to blow the detonator, it blows up all the elites, leaving Glassman and Thorne relatively unharmed, as Thorne picks up Glassman and just runs right off the balcony down the sniper alley. It was pretty cool nonetheless.
Oh, yeah. It was very cool to see.
Yeah. When Gek finally gets through the pile of elites, he gets to one of the last ones, which I guess is one of his pack brothers, because he reaches down and says, brother. At this point, he's pretty angry, looks around for Dr. Glassman, hoping to see some kind of sign of him around, and notices a glimmer down the ground, and of course, Dr. Glassman's broken glasses are there, signifying that he escaped.
Yeah, he does notice a couple of footprints, too, before that. And then he sees the glasses, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he manages to kill his own kind instead of eliminating the threat of Dr. Glassman escaping.
So now he's got more dishonor upon him.
Yeah. At this point, it'd probably be best for him to go ahead and commit seppuku. So it's a good thing for us, not necessarily a good thing for the Covenant, or at least for Jules' purposes. Yeah, Gek's gonna get severely punished, if not probably executed. So Chapter 1 now comes into play. We reach the end of the cutscene, and now it's time for the gameplay. And this is where things really start to get interesting, where we see gameplay start to be really interesting. The environments are very well done, even though some of them are kind of reused from the campaign and some multiplayer maps. They've redesigned them in such a way where it feels like a fresh new environment and new experience.
Oh, yeah.
So the first chapter that we are introduced to for episode 6 is Escape Plan. All contact has been lost with Fireteam Crimson. Last seen facing insurmountable odds. They were either killed or captured. Infinity will continue attempting to establish their status. This is on the map Lockup, which is a brand new map. And the objective here is unknown because, well, we don't really know what happened to Crimson. Although we do know we're going to play as them, so we have a feeling that they're okay.
Just a feeling.
Yeah, just a feeling. It turns out Crimson is okay. They're just being held captive for the time being.
You know, that's a little anticlimactic, though, to be honest with you. You know, you see all those Covenant at the end of episode 5's CG. Well, really at the end of the episode itself, and the last chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was expecting just a massive battle before they were taken prisoner. But I guess because we're the player Spartans, they couldn't really portray the Spartans within the cutscene because then they would have to, either include, player Spartan models or make a Spartan model for Crimson. And then that would take away from the individual aspect of each of us being Crimson. So
right.
I can see that, but wow, I really wanted to see, what happened there. So was a little anticlimactic then on how this starts, but I was still excited to see that all the environments for the second half of the season are brand new, and none of the ones from the first half of the season repeat.
Right. You bring up an interesting point where I don't want to get into too much detail about it here and save it for another podcast, hopefully, but the disconnect between Fireteam's Crimson and what's actually going on during the CGI cutscene, which I consider kind of the main storyline aspect of Spartan Ops. I understand why they have to do it because the gameplay is geared to where you are your Crimson team. It's designed to be your team. And when you have a scripted element like the cutscenes, it's hard to incorporate that. I think one of the only few references we got in the first half was when Crimson found something that they brought aboard. I think that was one of the only times Crimson was mentioned in the actual cutscene. And I would want to see more of that. And I understand that it's really hard to do it, but it's one of just kind of those disappointing things. Like, yeah, I understand why, but it still kind of sucks that it has to be that way.
You're right. And I don't want to. I hate to bring up former games, but Reach in Reach, whenever you played the campaign, your Spartan model was in those scenes. So I think that's where I've heard other people or read it on Waypoint, people kind of complaining about that, and I can see their point that in Reach you did have your Spartan model in those cutscenes, so why couldn't they have been in Spartan Ops as well? And I totally get that, and it's something that I wish could have happened, but considering everything else 343 had to put together to get Halo 4 out, it's not a huge disappointment. It's just something that, hopefully when Halo 5 comes around, they'll work that out. And if they continue on with Spartan Ops or something else similar, whichever the case may be, that they'll be able to include player Spartan models.
Well, the other thing with that is the reason why the cutscenes look so good is because they're pre-rendered.
Right.
It is using the game engine, but it's pre-rendered cutscenes, and this goes through many passes, and they can capture a lot more detail where when you're doing live cutscenes like that, you can't be as detailed. The scripting cannot be as dynamic and complex.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a trade-off there.
Right.
But the cutscenes would not be just that much better if it was done on the fly and we had our Spartan models in the cutscene.
Now maybe that'll change with the new console though.
Yeah, for the Durango.
Xbox 720, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. But you could call it an Xbox, the Xbox 720, the Durango. It's I believe the project name is called Durango. I think that's why or at least we've been using that term here on the show recently.
Yeah. That's a code name.
Right. Okay. So back to Crimson. They're being pinned up by these kind of energy cuffs onto one of the walls, and Infinity finally is able to locate where the Fireteam Crimson is. Miller has Dalton send down a kind of a distraction to get the Covenant's attention, and I guess somehow the bombardment causes one of the shackles of one of the Spartans to drop. So if you're playing with multiple people, you'll have whoever's player one drop down first, run up and assassinate an elite that's totally scripted, and then the rest of your squad will fall down, and then you disperse out and begin your mission. A couple things to note on here is you cannot use any of your loadouts, and you do not spawn with any armor abilities, technical, or support mods at all in this chapter.
Yeah.
You're totally at the mercy of what's around you.
Kind of feel a little naked without them.
Yeah, especially that first part, because I would want to jetpack up to the middle, and it's like, oh, I don't have an armor ability. Well, shucks.
Yeah.
And then we have to run all the way around the ramps and then all the way across while being shot by phantoms or ghosts and take out whatever Covenant's there. All that good stuff. So as you move on, there's actually the first two elites there have armor abilities that you can pick up. So the first guy who runs through that scripted animation actually automatically picks up a hard light shield, which the elite is holding. And I forget what the second one is holding, but whoever can go up and kill that elite, he's going to drop one as well. And there may be some other elites throughout the rest of the mission where you can, if you kill them, they'll drop some of their armor abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But don't count on having any throughout this mission. And you're going to have to rely on Covenant weapons. I don't believe there's any UNSC weapons around for you to use.
Right. Certainly in the majority of the first part of this mission, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it might even be, is it through the whole part of the mission?
Yeah, except there are some Prometheans that spawn, so you can pick up Promethean weapons, but those are very few. So it's mainly Covenant. But the Covenant has a good arsenal of weapons. There's carbines, there's needlers, there's a couple fuel rods scattered throughout the map that you can go around and pick up. So it's not impossible. You just have to get used to using some of the Covenant weapons if you're not used to using them already.
All right. And of course there's ghosts. So if you're using, if you pick up a plasma pistol, you can EMP it and then, hopefully jack that ghost and then use the ghost for the mission too.
Right. And you can take those ghosts pretty much through the entire mission as you're playing through. All right. Back on track here. After the very start where you assassinate the elites, your objective is to clear out the area while Infinity tries to figure out how to get you out of there. I believe there's 2 Phantoms, maybe 3, that drop some more enemies off as you're fighting the ones that are currently there. And 2 ghosts also get dropped. And those are pretty easy to take out, especially if you have numbers and plasma pistols.
Mm-hmm.
They're relatively... since you're such an enclosed space, it's easy to run up and just board one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely use the top ring to jump down and grab one.
Right.
So have people mostly on the top, because that way you have your height advantage. That's always kind of one of those key things to know when you are fighting anyone is
take the high ground.
Yeah, take the high ground, and that's going to get you a lot more advantage. Taking all the Covenant there, not too hard to do if you have the right number of people and depending on your difficulty. And definitely commandeer at least one of those ghosts. If you can manage to get both of those, that's really good.
I think there's even 1 or 2 on the map that aren't dropped. They're just already there. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So
I believe that's in the next part. I don't think that's in this first part. Or maybe it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is right there in the first part. So you might be able to get your whole team on ghosts. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I think if you're going with 4 people, 2 ghosts is good, and then have 2 other people, run around and either distract or flank where the ghosts are going.
The thing about using ghosts is, on here, there's a lot of close quarters, and there's actually little shield walls that pop up as you approach them because you can control Forerunner technology to your whim, kind of thing. So those will actually pop up, and they'll actually prevent you from moving through certain areas effectively. So it's a good idea to have some people that are on the ground shooting out the infantry and then leave the ghosts to do a lot of the heavy work, like taking out elite shields, splattering some Covenant that are just out in the open and that kind of thing. Once you take out this first group of enemies in this circular area, you're going to get a waypoint to drop the shields and open the door to the next area. If you're waiting there, you're going to want to back up because there's a whole flood of Covenant suicide grunts just holding plasma grenades in their hands, and I've died multiple times to that scenario for not remembering that happening.
Right.
It sucks. Well, the first time I almost died. The second time, though, I totally bit the bullet.
It's easy to forget that if you haven't played the mission. Certainly, when you've gotten around to the 8th and 9th episodes, and then you go back and you play it again. You play this one, you forget about those those grunts, and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah, because the shield actually drops before the door opens, so you're up right against the door, and then as the door opens, the grunts are literally there. And if people aren't shooting them and stopping them before they even approach you, they're already starting to run towards you. By the time you have a chance to react and back up, you're likely dead. And of course, there's like 8 of them there, so the explosion's even more magnified. So just be careful as you're approaching that door. Don't make the mistake I made. And don't forget that that's there. Anyways, moving on through the area, you have more Phantoms, and there's a couple of plasma turrets that are all the way in the back. But there's going to be some enemies scattered pretty much throughout. It's a good mix. There's not any real concentration of enemies in this part until you have the Phantoms and the drop pods come in and drop some more Covenant. So take your time, take the ghosts in there, pepper all the enemies that have shields, like the Jackals and the Elites. Have your ground troops go in and finish up with headshots and whatnot. there are some fuel rods. This is a good key note to pull out because it helps you a lot along the way. There's a room on the left side as you go through the door and the ramp to the next part. And there's a Covenant crate in there with fuel rods and plasma pistols. Now, the plasma pistols, there's plenty of Covenant there with plasma pistols anyway, so that's not the thing you want. It's the fuel rod guns there. I suggest holding those until you get to the next part after this. There's a few instances where you may want to use them here, and there's, I believe, a couple of elites that drop with fuel rods in this area, but I would personally save them for the area after this one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. Were there hunters in this part or not?
No.
Okay, didn't think there was
in this
okay
episode or this chapter.
Sweet. Take the fuel. Yeah, so take the fuel rods after you're done cleaning out the area. This is actually was your initially staged evac zone, but because you're so far deep behind enemy lines, Spartan Dalton's like, it's not going to happen. It's too heavy in there. So the plans have changed now to actually commandeer one of the phantoms that are nearby. And this is where you get your prompt to go through another little small corridor. And there's some jackals in there, but they're really easy to clean up and take out. The next area is going to be a pretty wide open space, open to the left. There's going to be two phantoms there that are going to pepper you with the concussion rifle guns that they have mounted on the front. But as you get there, I believe it's Roland detects some IFF tags of a missing Marine team.
Mm-hmm.
Called, was it Icebreaker? Yeah, Icebreaker. So your mission of commandeering one of the phantoms is put on hold temporarily, and Miller says it's up to you to bring these guys home if they're still alive. It's like, and he says, we're putting it on you to get these guys out of there. So it's like, what do we do? We just happen to be here.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you are instructed to find out or investigate what these IFF tags are, whether or not there are Marines tied to them. There's a door at the top of the middle kind of structure thing. So you go up the ramps, activate the door, and this is the one part where you have to fight Prometheans. You don't have to fight Prometheans anywhere else in this. It's kind of like an ambush once you get in there. There's a couple of elites walking around.
Wait a minute. Prometheans? Oh,
yeah, the crawlers.
That's right. There's some crawlers in there.
Yeah, there's some crawlers.
Yeah. Sorry, every time you're saying Prometheans, I'm thinking knights.
Yeah.
Like, forgetting that, yes, the crawlers are Prometheans also.
They're the nice little puppies. They're the nice puppies.
I call them didact dogs. They're not puppies. They're not cute little puppies.
well, they weren't the Didacts until we awoken the Didacts. They used to be blue, but now most of them are orange. Just saying.
Right.
But yeah, this is the only part where you have to fight Prometheans on this chapter. You get ambushed pretty much, but as long as you have a precision weapon, like grabbing one of the carbines, then you're good to go. You can just shoot their heads off all day long, and then go rescue the Marine team that's in there. Hit the button, the shields drop, all the rest of the doors to the outside open up, and now you're kind of back on your mission of, okay, how are we going to get one of these Covenant Phantoms in our possession? And little be known, apparently Lieutenant T.J. Murphy, who is the leader of Fireteam Icebreaker, knows a thing or two about hacking Phantoms.
And this is a Marine fire team. It's not a Spartan fire team.
Right. So he says, well, that's certainly not that hard. I can do it for you if you give me a little time to get it done and protect me. So you're on defense detail while I believe it's two other Phantoms drop some more troops, and then they just sit there and drop about 3 or 4 different waves. So you just have to stake it out. Eventually, this Phantom kind of hovers in over the central platform that's out there a little ways, and you see the shields start to flicker, and it's supposed to be hacked, if you want to kind of call that hacking. I don't think you really see a visual representation of it, but
Right.
anywho, technically, if Lieutenant Murphy dies, you fail the mission, but I have rarely seen where any of the Covenant are actually focusing on him
Right.
hacking one of the Phantoms.
I haven't seen
it takes
anybody fail this
effort.
mission, and I rarely even see Murphy take any damage. So it's not something that you really have to pay attention to here.
Right. It's a cakewalk, really, in terms
really
of
is.
having to defend him. It's really just holding out until all the Covenant are dead and he's actually able to, quote unquote, hack the Phantom.
Mm-hmm. Can I interject a thought here on Murphy real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
Oh, I know where you're going at. Yep.
Yeah, I mentioned this to you when we were playing it. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but this is a little history thing here. The last name of Murphy, there was a soldier, a U.S. soldier in World War II named Audie Murphy, and he was the most decorated World War II American soldier out there at the time. He went on to go to Hollywood, and he created, he starred in a lot of movies that, of course, were all World War II related movies. But I found it interesting that they chose the last name of Murphy, and I don't know if there really is that distinction of it being, harkening back to Audie Murphy or not. But I thought that it was cool that that name was used. So, whether it's related or not, there's a little piece of history for you. With the last name being used. I just thought it was neat, something to know, especially for those that are U.S. listeners. That there's a little bit more behind that name than it just being the name of a character.
For the history buffs out there.
Right, that's right.
Yep. Do you have stats for us on this one?
Actually, I do.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So. As with everything, now in this particular mission, we don't have to worry about it. But later on, you'll see that enemy counts can change depending on the scenarios. If you've got Prometheans, if it's knights, they can spawn more Watchers. Watchers can respawn knights. For Covenant, if you're able to destroy the drop ships faster, you may not get as many enemies. So these numbers I'm going to give can vary slightly, and they vary slightly as well from difficulty level. But generally, what I'm giving you is like normal or heroic difficulty. That's generally what you're going to get then if you just play through, fairly normal. Okay, so with this chapter, there's a bit of grunts that you can get. We've got 27 roughly, storm grunts, 24 for the imperial grunts. And then the really good one is Jackal Rangers, which includes your snipers, and that's 47. So this one is definitely a good one if you're trying to go for your Jackal sniper counts.
Let me just caveat that real quick.
Yeah.
Just because they're Rangers doesn't mean they have beam rifles.
That's right.
Most of the ones in here, if not all of them, well, no, there are a couple of them that have beam rifles, but most of them have carbines.
That's right. Yeah. Just because they're Rangers, exactly. They're not all snipers with beam rifles. So yeah, bear that in mind. So those are your good counts. Everything else is pretty low. There are missions later on and preceding where you can get more grunt kills. But as far as the Jackal Rangers go, this is, I believe it's the second highest of any mission throughout the whole series, if I'm not mistaken.
Alrighty. Chapter 2, All the Secrets. En route to rendezvous with Infinity, Fireteam Crimson has been forced to land at a Covenant control facility. Spartans are investigating the structure's purpose. The map is Control, and your objective, investigate Covenant communication. After you've been picked up, or after you actually hack one of the Phantoms, you're on your way back to Infinity, but you get this command from some of the other Phantoms that are flying nearby to go land at this secure facility. Of course, this is kind of piquing the interest of Palmer and everyone else upstairs in Infinity. So they say they tell Murphy to go ahead and land down there. Just go with the flow, and they'll investigate, see what's going on there.
I don't know about you, but I really wouldn't want to do that. You're already, in a stolen piece of Covenant gear, and now you're told to go land in a Covenant controlled area. Just,
But you don't really want to.
You don't want to draw attention to yourself. I understand that.
Right.
And,
And I mean, they've been through worse already. What's a few more Covenant to go kill, right?
I guess. Real life scenario though, ooh, that would be tough. But yeah, I get it.
I would see them landing and then staying under the cover of night and not really engaging the enemy too much.
Mm.
But as far as it goes, you're eventually gonna have to kill some Covenant anyways. At least that's kind of how this game is, or how this mission is scripted.
Right.
So you land, you have some time to kind of figure out your surroundings, and a keen eye will notice that this section that you're in is actually the last open area from the second campaign mission, Requiem. It's the exact same structure.
Now it's at night.
Now it's at night, and the Covenant have obviously occupied it. They have all of their equipment laid out, and there's actually some UNSC gear nearby, which we'll get to in a second. There's a UNSC crate right in front of you, though, that you can use initially to take some cover, kind of figure out, get your bearings a little bit. Not too far along, the Covenant are going to eventually find out that you're there. The game's got to progress somehow, right?
Right.
So eventually they'll figure you out, and Miller comes on the radio. It's like, it's Roland. I think they figured out they're not Covenant.
Now, let me ask you, do you like that it changed to night on this?
I love it. I've always wanted a night map.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
And it makes the map just a little bit more menacing. You can't quite see the enemies as easily.
They picked a good environment to do it with too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you have the lights coming off of the Forerunner structures, you have the other lit areas just due to the fact that there's Covenant technology around. It's really, really well done for this particular area. Personally, I think it's that way.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I think canonically, you're supposed to find the weapon cache afterwards. At least that's how I kind of written it up in my document. Just because when you initially land, you are facing towards the Covenant. You're not facing off to the left where this other weapon cache actually is. And there's no real incentive to go over there to begin with. So I think this isn't quite canonical, at least from my standpoint. But there are crates over to the left-hand side, which are designed more for afterwards. But there's shotguns and rocket launchers there that you can pick up and use against the Covenant that are in that first open area. Really gets the job done quickly. Because there's a couple of ghosts, there's a few elites, and all that nice jazz. Once you take care of those, you're going to be pointed to a door on the bottom level of the structure. You go open that up, and as you go in, there's going to be another group of Covenant elites, grunts, jackals. Take them out, go upstairs, and you're faced against an elite general and a couple other elites. I think there's 4 different enemies up there. Or actually, no, I take that back. I think it actually varies based on how many people you're playing with and the difficulty.
Right.
But anyways,
and the plasma turrets that are up there, there's one when you're playing lower difficulties and less people. Then there's 2 turrets if you're playing higher difficulties and more people.
Okay, at least you noticed that. I probably wouldn't have noticed that, but
yep, that's the case.
Anyways. After you defeat those elites, you are at your first objective, and what you're doing there is, since you're at a secure Covenant facility, they kind of want to know what the Covenant's doing there, see if they can eavesdrop in on some of their conversations. So you actually get to your first comm relay that's in the area, and Roland comes on. It's like, yep, it's standard Covenant encryption, but there's a hardware lock on it, and I need Crimson to go around to each one of them and open up the computer so I can hack in with their short range radios and install this worm that I have specially prepared for this kind of situation. So you do that. You open up the terminal. Roland puts in his worm, and
What? Sorry.
It's a technical term.
Okay. All right.
They use the word worm.
I'm just saying, the Roland puts in his worm, it's, okay.
Get your head out of the freaking gutter. Anyways. That's done. Now, you're successfully listening to one of the channels of communications that are being fed through this facility, and you're asked to open the door to the outside on the second level, and you continue going on. Now, if you're playing with multiple people, if you're doing this cooperatively, it's a good idea to have someone up on one of the other levels to prepare for the covenant that get dropped for this next area. It's going to help alleviate some of the stress off of the bucket of jackal snipers that get dropped to the next terminal, and you can actually jetpack up to the top level before actually going through any of the doors and activating any of the terminals. So take that to your advantage as you will. Nonetheless, you do have to go activate the first terminal, and then the second phantom will drop. Take out all the covenant there. There's a couple of grunts mixed in with the sniper jackals. There's quite a few of them, though. I want to say there's probably between 6 and 8 that get dropped off.
Wait, snipers? Sniper?
Yeah.
I don't have that count.
There's at least 4 there, because when I was watching the video to write up my documentation, I got shot by 4 different snipers.
Okay. I'll have to check that on the count. Go ahead. Keep going, though, in the meantime.
Push on through to the second terminal, which is, as you're exiting the door on the second level, you actually want to go to your right. That's where the second terminal is going to be. Unlock the hardware lock on there. Roland hacks the terminal with the worm. You continue on up to the very top level. More Covenant reinforcements will come out of a back room. Take them out, activate the third terminal, and instead of successfully hacking the relay, it decides to go into lockdown, and Roland starts to freak out a little bit, and more Covenant are alerted to your position, so it just gets pounded with reinforcements. Although it's not too bad. It's just one Phantom that drops a lot of high-ranking elites and jackals, and some more enemies come out of that back room that initially came when you first went up to the very top level. Take them out. It's fairly easy. I would say it's probably one of the easier fights you'll have to do on this mission specifically. After a little while, the Phantom will go away, and Roland will point out where the 2 terminals controlling the lockdown are. Take some heavy weapons. There's some concussion rifles that have been dropped while you've been playing. You can use grenades, and the 2 terminals that are controlling the lockout blow up very easily.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't take too much firepower to take them out. What you do, you're just faced with cleaning up the rest of the Covenant so Murphy can come back with the Phantom and pick you up. He will report during your attack on the terminals, though, that one of the Phantoms that he was kind of fending off for you guys managed to slip through, and it just happens to be full of hunters.
Damn.
But don't fear, because there's an easy solution to the hunter problem, and that is running behind those big crates of UNSC ammo that we mentioned earlier. You just go hide behind there, just refill on rockets. Those things, I think, spawn every 30 seconds or so you almost have an infinite supply of rockets. Just rain fire on the Covenant and the hunters that have been dropped off by the drop pods, the Phantom. A pair of Banshees will come in eventually. They're not too hard to take out. They will dodge the rockets every now and then. But as long as you have 2 or 3 people, and if you have a 4th, it makes it just even easier to take them out. Use the lock-on feature for the rockets and just wail away until all the enemies are done and Murphy's able to come pick you up.
Yep, that's it.
That's pretty much it. There is something very, very special about this chapter that has not happened anywhere else yet. And this is a non-Rooster Teeth, I'll repeat it, a non-Rooster Teeth Easter egg. What you have to do is right as you start. Now, it's best to do this with just yourself to get this Easter egg. Because I believe that you can't shoot at anything before you actually activate the Easter egg. You can actually jump up the rocks on the right-hand side just as you spawn to lead up to the second level of the structure. Run your way around and up to the third level. If you have a jetpack, you can just kind of run in the front and jetpack up to the top. If not, use one of the side ramps to get all the way to the top. In the back left corner from where you start, if you look up near the top of the ceiling, you'll see a loudspeaker. Destroy the loudspeaker, and then continue on to kill all the Covenant that are there, completing your first objective. When you open the door and go into the next room, you'll see a room of dancing grunts.
Oh, it's great.
There are speakers that have been mounted onto the little pillars in the middle, and they're dancing to some of the music that you've heard from Halo 4. It's not any special music. It is just regular Halo 4 music. You can kill the grunts, and they won't even respawn like they did during the Easter egg and Reach. And none of the other enemies that are actually on the second level before activating the terminal will spawn either. So
it's just fun watching them do their little dance, too, though.
Yeah. And each little section has its own kind of unique dance. It's not all of them doing the same thing. Right. They're actually doing different little dances.
Yeah, that's definitely something I recommend doing because it's not that we know of. That's the only one I believe that's found that's not an RVB Easter egg.
Correct. With that said, stats, please.
Okay, so I did check the sniper ones too, the sniper jackals, and there are a few. The ones to make note of here, though, again, are Storm Grunts at 29, and then Storm Jackals at 16, Storm Elites at 16, and then you've got several Zealots. And since you don't have Zealots come around too often, there is another mission where you get more of these. But this mission, if you like it and you want to replay it, then this is probably the one that you want to play for Zealot Elites. Otherwise, there really isn't much in the way of other enemies that you would want to try and farm for commendations.
Alrighty. Moving on to the next one. Chapter 3, Need to Know. Surveillance revealed an underground Covenant intelligence base. Fireteam Crimson is deployed to dig up information on Covenant operations. This is on the map Warrens, and your objective, extract Covenant intelligence. Holy crap, this map is gigantic.
Oh, yes, it is. And this, I've said it before about some of the other maps, and levels that we've played in Spartan Ops, but this one certainly would make for a fantastic big team battle map. And the thing is there's really two main sections of this. This is like a campaign level, especially we'll see later on. But whether you're on the outside portion of it or you go to the inside portion of it, it's certainly big enough that you could play this as a big team battle map. So this is one of those ones I wish they would convert it into a war games map as well. I think it's beautifully done. It's more of a vertical type of a map. There is some ground space that you can cover, but for any of you that like jetpacks, certainly you want to load yourself up with a jetpack going into this mission for Spartan Ops. There's a lot of verticality to it, a lot of levels. So, but I think it's a well done map, but it is very large. Yes,
I think this requires more than just big team for especially that intersection in the cavern.
Right.
I don't think 16 players is enough. Anyways.
Could you imagine something like capture the flag on that, though?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow. That would just be incredible.
That would be something that you would have to do at LAN parties just because of the sheer amount of time it would take.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that on a matchmaking thing. You would have to actually do this at a LAN party where you have, I don't know exactly what your history is, but did you ever have those LAN parties where you were playing 4-hour capture the flag matches on Blood Gulch or Coagulation?
Well, I haven't had them be that long, but certainly, yeah.
I remember a few distinct times where it's 3 flag captures for capture the flag. Both flags are up, flag at home to score, playing on coagulation, and one game would take 4 hours.
Yeah.
That is Halo at its core, people.
Oh, yeah.
That is what Halo's meant to be.
And I could see this map doing just that. If you had a flag where the Banshee spawn at, and then a flag where the like the door is where the Forerunners are at.
Mm-hmm.
Not down low, the one up high. And that's to take your flags back and forth. Oh my goodness.
Right. It's crazy. Let's move on to the actual mission, though.
Yes.
So you've caught wind from the comm relays that you've been able to hack that there's this even more treasure trove of Covenant information that's at this one particular location. So that's what you're there to obtain is get to this terminal, extract the data, and then head back out like you normally do. When you first get dropped off, you're dropped off kind of a bit far ways from the Covenant camp, and it's a short trek over, and what do we got? We got sleeping grunts. And not just one sleeping grunt, not 2, not 3, a whole lot of sleeping grunts.
And and I'm sure you're going to say this. The good thing about this mission is at the beginning, there's 3 different ways that you can play this. So,
actually, why don't you go ahead and talk about it, because you were the one that actually told me.
Okay. So, it's great that, we are given the option to play this differently so that you get a different experience in playing this mission, at least at the beginning. So, as was mentioned with these grunts, you can choose to assassinate all the sleeping grunts or shoot them up, or you can assassinate a few of them, and then if you stay towards the right and keep following towards the right, there's this little alcove where there's an elite at a terminal, at a station. If you can assassinate him before the rest of the Covenant are alerted, you can actually use that terminal to call down a strike from the Covenant ship above. And if you're able to do that, then it essentially wipes out all the Covenant. So your choices again are eliminate all the all the grunts by assassination, which in and of itself is fun to do and can be tough to do. Because if one of them sees you, then that's it. It turns into a firefight. Or you can just do the normal route of just killing them all normally with gunfire, and that's okay too. But I find it more of a challenge to assassinate them, without being detected. And then the second one being the, assassinating a few of them just enough to get around the corner to do that strike.
Now, if you do the all assassination thing, you do have to take note of the one elite that is standing back in the corner, because he will kind of turn around and see what you're doing.
Right.
So just keep that in mind.
Right.
Continue.
So again, that's the good thing about this mission, though, is, and I've mentioned this before, there, even with other missions, there are different paths and ways that you can take to finish a lot of these different missions. This is certainly one of those ones that gives you choice on how to play. You might not realize that choice at the beginning, and so that's why we're here to tell you.
Yes. I have not been able to successfully do the entire assassination thing yet. I've done the head-on firing, and then I've played one game where we actually activated the bombardment.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't done one run through yet where I've successfully killed everything silently.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's difficult.
Tough. Even on easy, somebody still manages to see you before you can get them all.
Yeah. Anywho, after that first group of Covenant that are there have been taken out, you're asked to open this door, hit the switch, and of course it seems a little damaged and it's not doing anything. So, of course, that alerts the Covenant, and they come in swooping down in phantoms and everything. You clean them up like you normally do, and then Miller finds a way into the cave, and it's blocked by a shield, and you unlock the terminal, and Roland does his thing, hacking the shield doors, and everything's fine and dandy, and you continue on through this really pretty cave. It has lots of little glowing mushrooms and crystals and all that kind of cool stuff. When you get to the end, you're greeted by a nice little surprise of
Ciao.
2 little Covenant elites that are camouflaged.
With swords.
With swords. And strangely enough, there's a hammer on the ground. So, take out the elites that are there. You can use your motion tracker, of course, to figure out kind of where they are, and then and granted, you kind of have to have good eyes to see them, but you can see the glimmers and everything. If you can't see them, throw a couple grenades. If you still have them, their shields will flare and they'll just stand out like a sore thumb. So clean them up. I recommend saving the hammer for a part a little bit later on in this mission that we'll get to in a second. But after you take care of those elites, you'll drop down into this gigantic cavern.
Mm-hmm.
That is enormous.
Let me suggest that before you drop down, there are some enemies that you can see. So if you've got a long range weapon, and certainly, BR or DMR are the weapons of choice to start with in this mission, take them out first. The more you can take out and you don't have to fight close quarter, the easier and the better it is for you.
Right. So there's a couple of turrets that you can see and a couple little areas where a couple Covenant are. There's not really a lot of Covenant to start out in here. They're very scattered, very spread out. They're not a hard thing to manage at all for this part. So take out what you can from the cave and then drop down. You'll be given a waypoint to where you need to go, which is this Forerunner facility in the back of the cavern opposite of where you came out and where you would have come out. The door worked.
Yeah.
As you approach, Prometheans spawn as you kind of disturb the hive and everything. There's crawlers, there's watchers, there's knights, there's turrets, all that fine and dandy stuff. Take them out, and then you are prompted to activate a switch to a light bridge system. This is essential because, first you can't really go past it without activating the switch. And secondly, you can't actually get up to where you need to go by jetpacks alone. The jetpacks are weak enough to where it's impossible. But activate the switch, light bridges come up, but you're faced with even more Prometheans.
Yay.
I think just about all of them are knights. I don't remember any crawlers that spawn.
Let me take a quick look.
There are watchers, though, because...
yeah. There's definitely watchers, no crawlers.
Yeah, no crawlers. It's just Promethean knights that spawn, but they do spawn watchers out of their backs, so keep an eye out for those as they spawn out. What you want to do, though, is as you depart the Forerunner facility there, head to your right up this kind of dirt path. There'll be 2 Promethean knights there. Take care of them. And then the direction you're going to go, if you're on foot, is as you crest the ramp there, you'll see kind of this landing pad. Just make a left, and that's going to be the direction of the light bridges. Now, if you're playing co-op, or if you're playing alone, it's a good idea to, instead of turning left, keep on going. You'll see Banshee. There's 2 Banshees available for you to pick up, and it makes handy work of the Prometheans that are there. It's pretty much essential to use those. You can slowly take out the rest of the knights if you want to, but those Banshees make it a lot easier and makes things go by a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Besides, it's fun.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a lot of inside space in there to fly around.
A lot of space. So if you're playing with 3 or more people, have your ground troops go across the bridges, take out the rest of the not Covenant, Prometheans that are there that have been weakened by Banshees. If you get a head-on shot with the fuel rod cannon from the Banshees, the Knights are pretty much dead in one shot.
Yeah.
Make your way into this upper Forerunner structure that's there. There's going to be heavily defended by Knights. Having the cover of Banshees is really going to help. So wipe out that area, and then the marker comes up for where the next terminal is to download data from. Activate it, and then move out. As you drop down, a Phantom will come drop off some more Covenant. Take care of them. It's just one Phantom, so you don't have to worry about it too much. You'll be actually leaving through the tunnel that you were trying to come through originally, where the door was broken. There's some Knights that are going to be down there, and as you make your way to the door, hit the switch, and the door opens.
Real quick, before you get too far here, this is just going back a ways before you get to the banshees. If you're someone that doesn't like to use banshees or might not be good with them, and especially if you've got other people with you and you're going to be one of the ground pounders, there is an incineration cannon that's it's located on the central platform in the upper level, and that also has a launch pad that you can take to the objective.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah. So just, well, you know what? At first I wasn't either because I typically go and grab the Banshee. So it's just something to bear in mind, if, either if you're playing 4 people, there's only 2 Banshees. So not everybody's going to get a Banshee. So if you're one of the people that either gets left behind and you have to ground pound, or you don't like to use the Banshees, or you're not good at it, so you prefer to ground pound, keep that in mind that, it's not an unlimited incineration cannon, but certainly it's going to help you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yep.
As you make your way through the tunnels and opening the door, Miller is able to kind of extract some information from the intel that you just gathered from this node or terminal that you accessed. And the Covenant's up to more archaeological digging. That seems to be their hobby as of late. Once you get out, you're going to be, or after you actually defeat the Covenant that are coming to attack you again, you're going to be picked up by Murphy and taken to another thing that they find, which is kind of a Covenant supply depot that's really close to where you are. Before you do that, there's going to be 2 Phantoms and drop pods that come in with angry Covenant again. There's 2 Hunters that drop down as well. So there's some, if you take that incineration cannon, or there's a couple of fuel rods I think that you can pick up along the way to just hammer out the Hunters before the end of the mission. Then everything is fine and dandy. Murphy comes picks you up and you're off to your next objective. You have stats for this one?
Sure, of course. This is a decent one if you're looking to get your Battle Wagon Knights. I have that at 19. Now, again, as I stressed at the beginning of the podcast, or near the beginning, if you've got Watchers milling about and you haven't killed them, they can possibly respawn these Knights, so the numbers can change a little bit. So, be aware that you're going to have roughly around 20 of those. There are roughly around 10 regular Knights as well. So, all told, you've got around 30 there. Several grunts, several different types of grunts to get, but really this isn't bad for getting those Battle Wagon Knights. If you leave the Watchers alone, you definitely have a greater opportunity for those to be respawned and get some more kills. Though there's plenty of action going on in this level, so, I don't know that I'd let them respawn, but, that's your choice. That's another way to play this if you're farming for commendations. Otherwise, it's a good mission overall for those Battle Wagon Knights.
All right, moving on to Chapter 4, Shutdown. In reaction to intel extracted from Covenant Control, Fireteam Switchback is investigating a Covenant archaeological dig while Fireteam Crimson corrupts a Covenant supply depot. The map is Cyclone, aka Vortex, and your objective, attack the Covenant depot. So as you can tell just from the description of the chapter, Fireteam Switchback, who is actually a Spartan Fireteam, so that we have someone other than Majestic actually going out and doing stuff now, finally.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get there.
Well, don't forget Mountain. Mountain's
right
back in the first half.
Right, but we've always seen whenever we were doing kind of like a side-by-side kind of thing, although this isn't quite the same way, but whenever we would go on the mission and there would be another objective at the same time, it would always be you and then Majestic. And now we're actually seeing a different Spartan team get thrown into the mix with Switchback. So it's and I believe you brought this up on a previous podcast, but it's nice to see some other Spartan teams finally be highlighted throughout the Spartan Ops experience.
Definitely. We got a lot of named ones here coming up soon.
Yeah, it expands very nicely to some other people getting some of the limelight instead of just Majestic all the time.
Yeah.
So for this mission, what Crimson is doing, what you're doing, is going around destroying Covenant plasma stockpiles, which is basically, if you don't know, their weapons run off of plasma, so they need something to refill their ammo every now and then, which is where these stockpiles come in. So you're on station to go around taking out all these stockpiles as quickly as you can, and there's a slight downside to them, because when you go destroy them, they kind of explode and have a big explosion. You don't want to be by one of them when you blow them up.
That's right.
I'll just put it that way.
Or you go boom.
Yes, I've gone boom plenty of times. I actually grabbed one of the turrets from the first one and turned around and started shooting it because I thought it was far enough away, and I died.
I think I might have been in that one with you.
Oh, you probably were. But yeah, so be careful when you're shooting those. But let's retract to the beginning a little bit. When you drop out of the Phantom, there's going to be some enemies in front of you, and not before long, some ghosts will come around from the back hill where the first stockpile is. So just make your way up there at your own pace. You don't have to go too quickly. It's not anything that's timed or anything. Once you get up there, the best thing to use against the stockpiles is heavy weapons. So if you have grenades, just chunk. I think like 2 of them will take it out really quickly. So definitely shoot it at a distance, because when you pop those stockpiles, if you're close enough, you're going to blow up. But you can also use it in conjunction with killing the Covenant around the area. And if you just focus on the stockpile first, you can take out a good group of Covenant that are just kind of sitting by the stockpile.
Yeah, that's a good tip for sure.
And it makes getting through the level a little bit easier. The best way up the hill to encounter the least amount of resistance is going up to the right. Now, you guys probably realize that once you drop, this is Vortex, the multiplayer map Vortex. So a lot of the terrain is going to be very similar to how it is in the game, with, of course, doors kind of blocked off for certain areas to go along with how the mission is going to flow, and you have other Covenant things there, equipment crates and everything else. But when you first get dropped, it's kind of on the open side of the map, and you're pretty much facing in the direction of where the first stockpile is. But the approach you want to go is up and to the right. That's going to be the easiest way to take the hill and take out the first stockpile. After destroying the first one, I believe it's Miller. Yeah, Miller hops on the radio and talks about some UNSC weapon crates that have some UNSC transponders on from weapon inventory. That's been detected on your sensors, so he asks you guys to go over and figure out what's over there. It definitely looks like there's things there, and
it's so funny, you know.
It's interesting.
Those are UNSC crates, and we're like, yeah, considering they say UNSC all over them.
Right. But then they go a step further, and Palmer asks you to clear out the area, and then Miller's like, okay, stand still, let me give an inventory of everything, just to make sure that it is UNSC gear. And if you're playing co-op, you only need to have one person stand still in the highlighted area, and the other guys can just go on killing whatever Covenant or nearby, or kind of advancing onto the next objective. Even though it's Miller will trigger the sound clip for Miller to say, stand still while I'm doing this, don't move around too much. As long as you have one guy standing there, it'll go through just fine.
And you don't have to stand still either. It's just no, you don't. It's a scripted thing. You don't.
I've had to.
I haven't.
A couple times I've gone through it. You can't walk around too much in that inner part. You have to be standing still.
Maybe it's freezing on you. I don't know. I don't know. Every time he says it, I just, joyfully just walk around there. You're like, okay, as long as I don't leave the area. But I'm not still. I never stay still.
Huh. All right. So I guess as long as you stay in the area, then I'm not exactly sure. Nonetheless, if you are moving around and it's not going through for you, just stand still for a few seconds, and he'll get his readings and be content with confirming that, yes, it's UNSC gear. I don't know if this is something where they've started taking inventory based on the Covenant has somehow obtained all these weapons, and we want to account for everything that they've done against the inventory that we have on the ship. Because there is another backstory, not necessarily directly tied to Spartan Ops, but the war between the Human and the Covenants is being subsidized by Oni in a way. If you've read the books, you know that Oni has given some factions of the Covenant human weapons.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more than meets the eye going on between the Covenant and the humans, and I haven't gotten to the point in the Kilo 5 trilogies to make this determination or not, but Oni may be supplying the Covenant there with the weapons to fight against the troops on Infinity. Oni may be behind that in a small way. I'm not sure how deep that goes.
Yeah, I have only read the first one in that series. I'm picking up the second one here. I've just waited for them to get the paperback instead of hardcover, but it wouldn't surprise me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm currently finishing up the first of the Kilo 5 books, and it's already talked about how they're supplying a certain sect of Sangheili's with UNSC weapons. So it wouldn't surprise me if Oni is actually kind of behind this a little bit.
It's curious though, if that is the case, what is their purpose for that? What's their reason? Just curious.
It's Oni, dude.
Yeah.
What purpose do they need? Right?
True enough.
Right. Anyways, after all the UNSC gear has been inventoried, Miller asks you guys to go over to a central structure where he's detected an override to the door, but when you get there, it's pretty much locked down tight, so it's like, okay, well, in the meantime, go get the next plasma stockpile. And that one's a little bit further along. If you have some people, or if you have just one person go over and hit the objective, you can have the rest of the guys continue through the tunnels where the UNSC ordnance and the gear is. And at the very end is where that second stockpile is going to be. So you can take the tunnel to avoid the wraiths that are coming up in attack. There's 2 of them there. And you can take out the second stockpile without having to worry about them too much because there is some cover from the rocks there. Again, keep your distance. Use heavy weapons, grenades, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's any heavy weapons like rocket launchers that you can, or fuel rod cannons that you can pick up yet.
No, I don't believe so.
But there should be plenty of grenades around, especially from the Covenant that you've killed. Pick up a few plasmas, chunk them at the stockpile, and kaboom.
Right.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, that part's really easy in this mission.
Mm-hmm. Next thing you want to do is after you destroy the stockpile, pick up the 2 ghosts that are behind it. That'll be very useful for the next part. If you're playing co-op, it's going to make taking out the wraiths even easier because you can have someone zap one of the wraiths. Take out the gunners first. That's something that you'll want to do before trying to board the wraith. Are these wraiths drivable? Like, have you been able to figure out a way to board them without destroying them?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's possible whenever you go to, well, if you stay from a distance, you can shoot the driver out of it.
The driver's the easy part.
What's that?
The driver's the easy part.
Yeah. Well, you can easily get the gunner. Yeah. Well, once you shoot the driver out, then that's it. You take it over.
Okay, so
it can definitely be done.
Yeah. So if you want to take the time to bash off the hood and then kill the elite driver in there, then have at it. It'll be very helpful for the next part. If not, just take out the wraiths, like hop on, just punch it to death, or jam a grenade in the rear. And
I let that go.
Ha ha ha, very funny. And then they just use the ghost to address the next section, and you can use them to splatter some of the enemies there, although with how the terrain is laid out around the third stockpile, it's a little difficult to kill all the Covenant in there without taking out the stockpile first. And with how concentrated it is, it's almost easier to take out the stockpile because you can probably take out a good third to a half of the Covenant sitting there by taking out that stockpile.
And also the terrain around there with the ghost. If you're trying to splatter, I mean, there's a few long runways, but
there's a few, but
not many. And
right.
Plus, there being the little hills up and down, you might end up flying over them. There's also the barricades in the way, so trying to get splatters on here, in some areas maybe, but it's not the best for it.
Right. As far as using the ghosts, you may have an angle on the stockpile, and that'd be a good use for them. But the splatters that you would get are the ones that are kind of straggling off to the side that aren't focused around defending the stockpile that heavily. Those are the ones that you can splatter with the ghost. You can also save that for after you destroy the stockpile when more reinforcements come around. And with those reinforcements include some jackal snipers, so watch out after you destroy that stockpile.
Man, they are deadly too.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you don't have the ghost, then get into hiding quick.
Yeah, it's not pretty because so all of the tall rocks that you can't really get to unless you jetpack. That's where they.
That's where they are.
That's where they are. Yeah. So it's not really fair, but it's not really designed to be fair.
Right.
Just be careful as you destroy the stockpile, and know that in about 10 seconds you're going to be under fire by jackal snipers. And if you have your precision weapons, you can take them out fairly quickly. It's just you got to make sure you're in cover, and when they do arrive, slowly peek around rocks and take them out strategically. You do that, it's not going to be too much of a problem. And then finish up the remaining Covenant that are there before moving on to your next objective, which is moving into the smaller forward structure that's close by to where the third stockpile was. It's not the center structure, but it's the one that's kind of off to the side. Once Miller kind of says that there's activity deep inside the structure, that's when you get the waypoint to go over there. There will be a grunt that drops down the lift. I believe, depending on how long you wait, you may get another couple of enemies, but if you're there, there's not going to be many that fall, and you don't have to wait. So the structure that's there, the way you're supposed to go up is hit this button and it kind of activates a gravity well to bring you up to the top, but if you have a jetpack, you can just jetpack right up. When you do get up there, there's going to be an invisible elite walking around. So
it is possible to assassinate him, though.
It is.
I've done it several times. So you don't have to necessarily be fearful the second you go up there. He's not necessarily looking right at you when you get up there. But do it quick. If you're going for that assassination, do it quick, because the moment he sees you, he's going to turn around and try and sword you.
Right. You can actually see him just turn invisible as you get up there. So he's going to be on the left side walking behind this divider to the right. So if you just walk up behind them, you can assassinate him really quick.
Mm-hmm.
After assassinating him, there's a terminal there. You'll hit the switch. It opens up the rest of the doors to the structure you're in, and it opens up the door to the center structure. But it also triggers the spawning of hunters. Yay, more hunters.
Yeah.
This episode likes its hunters. But not to fret, because Palmer has Spartan Dalton give you some ordnance, and what do you know? We got some lasers.
Splazers.
Splazers. It is possible to take out the hunters without the lasers. I mean, it's just going to be a frag fest as you pound grenades, or if you use a ghost. But
yeah, it just takes longer.
Yeah, using the lasers is probably the best way to take care of the hunters. There's how many hunters?
Oh,
I want to say 4.
Let me see.
Two or four?
4.
4. So there's 4 hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of ghosts, right?
Oh yeah, there's some leftover ghosts.
There's ghosts and hunters. So use the lasers on those classes, and then just clean up the rest of them with your precision weapons, BR, DMR, carbine, whatever you use. After the area is clear, make your way up to the center structure. If the elites haven't charged down the ramp already, there's going to be a couple of high-ranking elites up there, so take care of those. Once you actually get into the center structure, you're going to have 4 invisible Covenant pop up. 2 of them are going to be elites that are going to be off to the right, and then 2 of them are going to be Jackal snipers.
David Ellis alluded to that. What a jagoff putting in snipers and camo ones to boot.
Yeah, that was a little cheap.
Damn.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Especially if you play that on Legendary. Man, those things, I mean, you can't see them except for that little beady red eye, the little lit red eye scope that he has.
Right.
Man, I've definitely gotten killed by those a few times. Thank you, David.
I don't think I've gotten killed by those yet.
Oh, I know I have.
Anyways, yes. So avoid the annoying jackals and elites. And the objective that you will eventually end up going to is a stockpile of UNSC nukes.
Wait, before you get to that.
Oh, did I miss something?
Yeah, underneath the main structure there. Whenever you turn the switch on where the Invis Elite was at, underneath the main structure, there's a cache of saws. And I certainly recommend going to get those. They cut your enemies down quickly, and there's enough of them to finish up that last little bit there that's in the main structure up above.
You even told me about this, and I forgot about it.
Oh, that's okay. Remember, that's why we're here. That's why there's 2 of us.
Yep. Alrighty. So, after you find the warheads, people start to question what exactly is going on. We have Palmer and Miller kind of talking back and forth. It's like, Palmer's ordering wants to get a disposal team down there, but there's something missing from the nukes, and the actual warheads, the actual explosive things themselves, has been stripped off of the rockets and been taken somewhere else. So not only did the Covenant steal the nukes, but now they have warheads that are probably not being traced. That can be integrated into whatever Covenant system they can possibly figure out how to get that working with. Not good.
Definitely not good.
Not good. We get a distress call from Fireteam Switchback, however, and they're asking for backup because they're under heavy fire and they've encountered a Covenant harvester, which we'll get to in the next chapter here. So they're requesting backup since you're the closest responders. That's where you're going to be going next. So head out the center structure towards your Phantom and get evacuated to head to your final objective in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to give stats, or do you want to do the other special thing of this?
I'm going to get the other special thing at the moment,
okay,
which is the Rooster Teeth Easter egg. So the egg location here is right after you have Miller scan the UNSC gear for the inventory. You're going to be heading over to the center structure, and you're not going to find anything, of course. What you can do is turn around, look back into the direction of where you just came from, where the UNSC gear is. Look up, and you'll see another Forerunner structure on the pad up there. On the left-hand side is the box to shoot to activate the Rooster Teeth Easter egg. Now, you can get a little bit better vantage point on it if you jetpack up to the
center structure.
Yeah, if you jetpack over the door.
Structure, just a little slope right above it.
Right, just above the door that you would have opened up. So if you jetpack up there, you can get a little bit better angle on it. You don't have to. You can actually see it standing flat-footed, but it just gives you a little bit better angle to actually hit it. So activating the Rooster Teeth Easter egg will cause the distress call coming from Switchback to be converted to red versus blue characters. And instead of hearing Switchback's distress call, you'll have Sarge calling in a prank call, and he'll be like, Corporal Switchback to infinity. And Palmer's like, yes, Switchback. And Sarge will be like, hey, Infinity, is your slip space drive running? Because you better go catch it. So it's kind of like that Prince Albert in a can type of joke. So, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was funny.
It wasn't like dying of laughter funny, but it was like, that's pretty funny kind of thing. So now you may give us the stats.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, as it seems to be, there's always a ton of grunts to get. About 30 of the storm grunts in this one. Beyond that, I'd say the next thing might be regular elites at about 16 or so. Otherwise, it's just kind of a mix. There's nothing really special as far as the types of enemies that you get here. Certainly, there's other missions that have plenty more hunters, and jackals on them. So, this one for replayability, I don't know. I guess because we already play the map in matchmaking, and the fact that there's not really any one particular enemy that stands out, the only difference with this one than the other ones is the objectives that you have to do. There isn't any other, of those plasma caches that you have to take out. So if you want to see those, certainly that's the mission then to see it. And otherwise, this is just one of those missions, you just play through it one time and enjoy it for what it is. Of course, It does have the Easter egg, so if you didn't get the Easter egg before, go back and try it.
One thing that I hear a few people complaining, just to go on a tangent real quick, is there's a lot of button pressing in Spartan Ops, and it seems like a lot of people aren't huge fans of all the button pressing. So if you're tired of button pressing, you can definitely use this one, as there's
That's true.
only one button that you push.
Right. Otherwise, it's objective for taking out those plasma
Right.
caches.
Yep. All right. Final chapter to this long episode. They're just going to get longer, dude.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I mean, we're already running almost an hour and 45 minutes, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, dang. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
They start picking up from here, man.
I know.
Like, I can't wait till next week. Episode 7's podcast.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I'm chomping at the bit for that one.
And then episode 8. Oh.
And then 9 and then 10. Oh.
It starts to calm down a little bit in terms of like how much stuff there is, but the storyline definitely just like blows out of proportion.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
I have a lot of writing to do for my document. A lot of writing to do. I'm hoping to be done by episode 8 this weekend, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
All
Let's move on to the last mission.
Yeah, last mission, Chapter 5, Switchback. Covenant employing a harvester in their search for a mysterious artifact. Spartans are deployed to shut down its operations. The map is Harvester. Your objective, ensure the Covenant Harvester remains offline. To preface this one, what has happened is you got the distress call from Switchback, and when you get there, Miller's able to see where all these IFF tags are, but there's no movement coming from these IFF tags, so they're obviously not on bodies, and there's no radio communications being transmitted or received. So whenever you have the kind of system that you, at least in Halo, usually there's some kind of radio signal or a dead silence on the line, but there's just, it would be kind of like static here. So there's no radio communication, there's no movement, so things are already starting off very weird. As you get dropped off, one of the IFF tags is very close by. You rush towards it, and what do you know? 2 knights decide to just pop right up out of the ground. Yeah.
There's a lot of knights here, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of Prometheans, period.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, at each one of the... I'm just going to go ahead and get this out there. At each IFF tag, there's Prometheans more or less defending the tags, although they're not really defending. They're just kind of triggers whenever you pop up. But The first one is guarded by the 2 Promethean Knights. After you take those out, you pick up the tag. Of course, no one's there, and they do verify that is a switchback tag, but they tell you to keep on going, keep searching for the other tags. If you're playing co-op, or right after you pick up the first tag, go to the right. You would usually go left to continue on the mission, but go to the right. There's kind of something that looks like a landing pad or kind of a staging area of some sort, and behind one of the rocks near the closest to the cliff edge, you'll actually find a rocket launcher sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
And you actually told me about this one, Sal. So
thanks for the credit.
Yep. So pick up those rockets. Use them strategically, because there are going to be times where you're going to be facing knights with binary rifles and incineration cannons, and those are the ones you want to save the rockets for. You don't want to waste your time with shooting the knights that aren't going to cause too much trouble for you, like the ones with the suppressors and the scatter shots. So save those for the heavy weapon knights, if you can manage. If not, definitely don't waste them on the crawlers. Use them on the knights.
Yeah, they're a big waste on the crawlers.
Yeah, because crawlers you can just headshot. So as you make your way onwards, there's a path up to the left, which is going to take you to your second IFF tag. That's guarded by, I believe, 4 crawlers. So as you go up there, just kind of keep your distance. When you see them spawn, take them out with headshots, grab the IFF tag, and move along.
Oh, real quick, you keep mentioning about headshots. I know I've mentioned this before, but just to reiterate it, I go into this mission with a BR for sure, if not a BR-DMR combo, because there are enough UNSC ammo crates around that you can get your ammo pretty easily. And
Good
using
point.
a BR against the crawlers, since you have to shoot them in the head to get the kill. You can shoot them in the body, but it takes several shots to do so to kill them. But since you've got the 3-shot out of the BMR as opposed to a 1-shot DMR, and you have to be more precise, I prefer to switch to my BR when there's a lot of crawlers around and give myself the opportunity for a little bit more luck with that 3-shot to hit them in the head.
Yeah.
So it's always, I think, a better choice of a weapon for the crawlers, since you have to be more specific about getting them in the head.
All right. The other thing, I need to really look at making a custom loadout for Spartan Ops, because I just play with my matchmaking one, and
yeah,
I have one loadout that I use pretty much across the board.
Yeah, I have 2 for Spartan Ops that I do. One is UNSC heavy, and then the other one's kind of a mix between UNSC and Covenant, when I know there's going to be a lot of Covenant on the map.
Yeah. All right. After picking up your second IFF tag, you're going to keep on moving through the canyon. You're going to, between each open area also, there's going to be an army of Prometheans, and between the open area you just came from and the next open area where the Harvester actually is, you're going to be stuck up against quite a few crawlers and I believe 2 or 3 knights or so. That would be a really good time to use the rockets against those knights. I believe one of them has a heavy weapon of some kind, so you want to definitely pick that up, because in the next area, which is the one with the Harvester, you have some more Prometheans that are actually closer down to the Harvester, and you can either go up the path on the left-hand side to take the high ground, or you can go down to the right and kind of take them head on. Your preference, really?
I say go to the left.
Yeah.
I prefer to keep my distance from those guys.
Well, there's times where I've actually still had rockets left, so I go down to the right and just take them head on. And the rockets, I mean, as long as you're, if you're playing heroic, rockets usually take them out in one shot. But if you're playing on legendary, sometimes it doesn't quite take them out. But you just take two of them to a knight, and then they're gone. If one of the knights also that you just passed has an incinerator cannon, you can take one of those, and one shot from that will kill one of the knights as well.
And the other thing to keep in mind too, when you're using those heavy weapons, you don't want to be too far away, and of course you don't want to be too close because you don't want to get hit from the splash damage. But being too far away, those knights have a tendency to warp out of the way on you. So if you're trying to use, a ranged heavy weapon like incineration cannon or a rocket launcher, your shot might be dead on to where they were, but then just before it gets there, they warp away, and that's really frustrating. So if you're going to go in for those closer kills with your heavy weapon, be a little bit closer for sure. Just not close enough where the splash damage hits you.
Just to expand on what you said, they beefed up the AI for the Knights in the second half of Spartan Ops.
I think so too.
I think they re-engineered the AI behind Spartan Ops and actually made them a formidable foe. I think the Knights we're seeing in Spartan Ops now is the Knights that we should have seen in the campaign. They act smarter in here than they did in the campaign that they did in the first half of Spartan Ops.
I think that's part of it, as well as the fact that there's just a lot more of them, typically. So
But I've never had the issue of the Knights zapping out that much of being shot at. It seems like they're actually playing a little more strategically to the abilities that they have at their disposal now than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a side note, it makes them a lot harder to kill too.
Oh yeah, but that's good. I like the challenge.
Yeah. Just
you
saying.
Don't want it too easy, my goodness.
Right. Well, I mean, they definitely bumped up the difficulty in this second half of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. But it makes it a lot of fun too. The third tag that you will find is going to be once you pass the harvester, the path to the left will actually go up to your fourth one, and there's a little kind of cave area off to the right that will be your third one. There's a mix of, I think there's a knight and 2 crawlers that spawn there to defend that IFF tag.
Before we go too far, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the second IFF tag, there is a saw that's on top of the ammo crate.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah. So, if you want that weapon, and again, because there are plenty of UNSC ammo crates around, I suggest getting that if you want to be a little bit closer in. Again, those things happen to cut down enemies, very well, and they're pretty effective against crawlers at closer range.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Right out. Now I can't talk. It's my show. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Yeah, right.
That'll be the day, right?
Over my dead, cold Promethean hands.
Oh,
wait. So, let's see. There's not a special weapon at the third one, is there? I think there may be a DMR or BR or something, but it's not like a heavy weapon of any kind.
Super special, no.
Right, so. There's an ammo crate there, though. There's actually an ammo crate at every IFF tag, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So after you get the third one, head back around the corner up to the fourth one. You'll meet another wall of Promethean crawlers and knights, and just fight through those. Make your way up to the fourth tag. There's 2 knights and a crawler or 2 that spawn to defend that one as well. At this point, you hear Spartan Palmer be like, "Okay, this is really not making any sense right now. What the hell is going on?" So they're confused and freaking out a little bit, but she tells you, "Okay, in the meantime, keep looking for clues, but make sure that harvester has no way of coming back online." So that you're pretty much finishing up on Switchback's original objective.
I'm surprised that the bows of the Watcher weren't that wasn't holding the IFF tags. Instead, instead of them kind of being scattered around, I would have figured they would have collected those IFF tags and put them in the Watcher instead.
Well,
obviously you need to be able to move about and have objectives to do, but a little surprised.
I'm not exactly sure why they were positioned that way either. There's too much of a pattern to them to be accidental for one. They're too spread out for two. So they're obviously intentionally placed in those areas, but if it was an ambush,
yeah,
I guess it could be an ambush because you did have Prometheans that spawned instantly when you got close to the IFF tag. So I guess they in the sense were put in place as an ambush, but it was a horrible job if it was.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I guess the Covenant really aren't that smart. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't think they are. At least this faction of the Covenant, other than Jewel himself, like Park Vol gets taken out. Other things will happen, and
I feel Jewel would have been able to be taken out if he wasn't such an integral part to the storyline behind Spartan Ops.
True.
I think they would have been able to take him out long before the end of the season.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, with your new objective on mind or on task, head your way back to the Harvester, and Miller will say that the only sure way to make sure that the Harvester is not going to be coming back online is to get inside. So you're going to have to find a way to get in there somehow. But before that, you have a big Promethean battle, and this is probably one of the most annoying battles in Spartan Ops for me personally.
Annoying how so?
Up to this point, because of how often the Knights phase in and out of areas.
Yes.
Because you shoot them once with like a binary rifle or something, and then they're already zapping away. And as Knights do, the instant they spawn out of their little slip space jump thing, they're already regaining shields. So, and you do the same thing again, they zap away to somewhere else. So you have to get in close to where they try to melee you.
And the thing is,
where they're not going to.
There's not just one or two of them either. I mean, there's like several.
There's like, I think there's at least 4. I want to say maybe up to 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Around that many at least. Yeah.
And they're just annoying.
So when you shoot one, like you say, you shoot one phases away. You think you're shooting the same one, then you realize that was a different one, and so you're trying to find the one you just shot so that you can kill him before his shields come back. And then there's other ones shooting at you, with either with a long distance scatter shot, which I seem to get killed by, or not a railgun, a light rifle, or that incineration
binary rifle.
I think there's some with light rifles too. There isn't there? Maybe not. I could be wrong.
I think there may be one, but there's definitely one with
a binary rifle, though. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going to get killed in this mission, that's definitely one area where it's possible to, just because of the amount of heavy weapons and knights in the area.
Yeah,
I keep my distance typically, but still.
It's hard because if you're at a distance, then that's when they usually do their phase jump.
Right.
And you have to send someone in as a guinea pig for them to attempt to slash at while you have everyone else just raining fire.
Mm-hmm.
And suppressing them as much as they can to take them out before they jump again. So
yeah, this is one thing. If you're playing multiplayer and it's more than 2 people, if you've got at least 3, and certainly if you have 4, for everybody to fan out and try and flank as much as possible.
Right.
Because if the Knights aren't phasing out of the way, they're hiding behind rocks, and you just can't get a clear shot on them. But if you all fan out, then somebody usually has a good chance of getting a shot on a Knight.
Yeah.
So don't stick together here, especially with that incineration cannon about. Man, that thing does some damage. It's got some blast radius.
Yeah. Anyways, after you are able to take out the Knights, if you get there, you're going to be directed to one of the computer terminals that are conveniently located outside the Harvester, which are somehow linked to... So I can't figure this out. Is it actually linked to explosives somewhere, or are you actually causing whatever the computer that terminal is hooked up to self-destruct?
Yeah, I think you're just blowing it up, yeah.
Okay, so I guess you're somehow overloading the computer manually, and it causes a gigantic explosion of some kind. I mean, you don't see it or hear it too much, but you definitely feel the ground rumble and hear kind of the canyon shake. And it's enough to get the attention of the Covenant to open the Harvester and start filing out. Stupid little Covenant.
When you look at this Harvester too, it just looks strange.
Yeah, a lot of people were thinking it was like a precursor at first, but...
Yeah, because it's not really the same as the scarabs that we're used to. For
No.
one, its color is different, but it certainly looks much more organic. And I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed that it didn't move at all. I thought for sure we were going to have to battle this big beast, or as we did in Halo 3, we'd have to board it and, take out, some kind of a power cell or something like that while it was moving. So, while I thought it's a cool looking ship, I was disappointed that it didn't move at all. So I don't know if that's something that 343 will consider for a new season or not. I hope this isn't the last we've seen it, though, because I think it is a very cool looking vehicle.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to exactly think of it, but hopefully
maybe in a Halo Wars 2.
Maybe.
Just saying.
Maybe. After the door to the harvester opens, just rush in, take out all the Covenant there. There's not too many.
You gotta watch out for a couple of Covenant snipers, though.
Yeah, I think there's only 2. I think there's just 1 on each side, though.
Yeah.
But there, yeah. So as you enter into the harvester, you can actually take 2 different paths. There's kind of like a horseshoe around the back of the controls center.
It's a fork in a road.
Right. They both lead to the same place, though, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
You will have to take out all the Covenant that are in there first before you can proceed to completely deactivate the harvester. So, as Sal said, just be careful of the 2 Jackal sniper. There's only 1 on each side, so it's not that hard to take care of. Most of the Jackal snipers in here usually don't instantly headshot you, so you're usually fine.
Right.
Take those out. There's a few Jackals on either side with a couple of elites that rush you initially when they open the door. There's some elites in the back. Take care of them, and then you're going to be pointed to 2 terminals, 2 control terminals that you blow up. So if you have fuel rods or incineration cannons at this point,
you know what? Don't even waste the big weapons, though. A grenade will do it.
Yeah, grenade works.
Grenade will do it just fine. So if you still have power weapons, but you have a grenade on hand, or you should be able to because you've already killed the Covenant around there, so there should be plenty enough stickies around that you can pick one up. Throw that instead.
I think just about anything you need to blow up here in Spartan Ops is easily done by 1 or 2 grenades.
Right.
So yeah. Miller says that the only way to make sure that it won't get back up again is to take out these 2 terminals. So you do that, and you make your way back out of the harvester, heading towards your LZ that you came into the area in the first place. Of course, there's Prometheans that are going to be along the way trying to stop you from getting back there. So scour the area of inside the harvester for fuel rods. There are a couple of fuel rods there.
Right.
If you haven't picked those up already, so use that. Use the heavy weapons that you picked up from the Prometheans earlier, like the binary rifles and incineration cannons, and just kind of haul your way back to Lieutenant Murphy. He's going to pick you up and take you back to Infinity. Still leaves the question open, though, of what happened to switch back.
And what happened at the nuclear warheads.
Right. So, more little platforms to hopefully develop over the next few episodes.
Yep.
Which it will.
Oh, yes, it definitely
will. Yep. All right. You got stats?
Sure do. This is definitely a good episode to get some Promethean kills with.
Prometheans.
Yep. Couple dozen each for crawlers and alpha crawlers or crawler primes, whichever you want to call them, as well as about 24 of the regular knights. The battle wagons can be about 6 to 8 there, and this is a good one for knight commanders. It has 4 on there, and in fact, of all the missions, not just up to this point, but any thereafter, this is the mission that has the most knight commanders in any of them. So if you're trying to farm knight commanders, this is the one to do it in. So, if you get There's not many watchers about, but if you do happen to have any watchers left over, whenever there's a knight commander around, try not to kill the watchers and kill the commander and see if the watcher will respawn another commander for you. It's possible, but certainly, at least from the get-go, without worrying about respawning, this is the mission that if you're trying to get those commanders to do it.
Alrighty.
It does take a little bit longer. I'll throw this out there. It takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes longer playing this mission and getting 4 commanders than it does episode 5, chapter 1, which is Spartan Miller. There, you can get 2 commanders, and if you do the same thing I just mentioned about allowing a watcher to respawn them, you can get up to 4. It's a little tougher. Usually you can only get 2, but that mission might take between 11 and 13 minutes to do, depending on how fast you do it. So it's, depending on how quickly you want to do the missions, this one's a little bit longer by a few minutes, but you do get usually at least 2 more commanders than you do in episode 5-1. So your choice. I say do this one because you get the nice mix of Covenant and Forerunner, as well as plenty of crawlers to take out. There's 3 crawler snipers too, which there isn't many crawler snipers about. So, that's also a nice little stat to get as well. But those commanders, that's the one that I really point at for this particular mission. So I think this one has some replayability just for that specific factor right there.
Sounds good. All right. I think that wraps up episode 6 for you guys. Long episode, I know. I think we may have gone over 2 hours. Actually, looking at my notes, it looks like we may have about 2.5 hours on this show.
Holy cow!
Sorry for the long episode, guys. But these are pretty much turning out to be very, very content-heavy episodes, especially as we go further down the path of Spartan Ops.
Next week, oof.
Yeah, bear with us as we're going through these.
But the thing is, they're just so much fun to talk about, so much fun to play through. Episode 7 for me coming up is, I think, probably my favorite of all the episodes because of where it takes place and what happens. So I don't know if it'll be a long episode or not, but it's certainly going to be a fun episode.
Indeed. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you tune in next week, or if we do this a little bit before then, whenever we do release episode 7, probably be about a week, depending on how quickly I can get my analysis done for the next episode. But we will have that out within the week, and hopefully these are going to be helpful for you playing through Spartan Ops if you haven't played through them already and you're doing it through the second run through. Again, thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.